Hello and welcome. This is Amanda Bido with Teen Services, joined by,
Jennifer Nisley. I'm one of the assistants in the reference department.
and today we are bringing you history of our waterways. This is quite an interesting history of how our waterways really shaped our area. So we're just going to jump right into it with talking about location, location, location. And why does it matter? Well, it matters quite a bit when we are talking about waterways. So, first, we're going to talk about this is Lake Erie. In one of our other sessions, we talk about the expedition of Warren and how we were found. It was French expeditioners. It's probably not the right word for it. But, anyways, they journeyed through Lake Erie down the waterways such as the Congo River, down into the Allegheny River, and so on. But here you can see this is a whole mapping system of the Ohio River Basin. So Ohio River is right here, but you can see that the Allegheny River is a part of it. And we're just looking at one river system and how this connects to many other rivers and different waterways, but it comes down through the south. So you can imagine all these different big cities over the years, but also all the way down to New Orleans to the Gulf of Mexico. So this was making it very easy for the little teeny tiny towns and rural areas up here in our area able to get things like timber and many other resources down the river, making them very wealthy very fast. So let's talk about navigation guides that we have here at the Warren Public Library. So one worth mentioning is the Allegheny Pilot, which helps you to navigate the Allegheny River as well as the other waterways that run into it. So you can see here, this is a navigation guide for rafts, flatboats, etc., which were all being used. This was published in 1855. So it shows you that in our early history, this was super important to understand how to navigate the waterways for many reasons. But let's click into this because I'm going to show you that this Allegheny Pilot is available on our online resources. So let's back up a minute. Here is our warrenlibrary.org website. Go to services, go to reference department. You're going to scroll down just a little bit to this blue box here that says click here to access the Allegheny Chronicles. You're going to click on the green picture here. And from here, you're going to see that we have several different things available for you to see online that we also have in our library as well. And the Allegheny Pilot is one of them. This is digitalized. And here you could check in this actual book and you can flip through it. You can see all the different navigation pages, the different waterways, and so forth. It's really, really cool. But we also have some more current ones like the Middle Allegheny River Water Trail Map and Guide here in the reference room. This is great, especially if you're really into like fishing, boating, things like that. So now we're going to talk about steamboats, barges, and rafts. Oh my. And here you can see this gorgeous, gorgeous picture that is done by the famous Elton Whitney Davis, who was a Warren artist who loved to do artwork on historical Warren. And this is gorgeous. This shows you how the waterway looked at that time period, how it was used with all these different ships. And you can see that this was a big part of Warren at that time period. So let's go a little further into this. We talked about the French expedition. They came down the Conewango, and this picture here is actually the mouth of Conewango where they came down and met the Allegheny River. This is where the lead plate was put at that Jen's going to talk about in one of our other sessions. Here is a beautiful picture of some lumber rafts right here on the Allegheny River, but also these were very popular on the Congowango Creek as well at the Eddie Warren. That was a huge place for rafts to be loaded with lumber. And you can find many of these also in the Allegheny Chronicles that we showed you on our website. Many, many photos that are fascinating. Many of the photos we use are from there. This is a coal barge. So coal barges, and some of these barges were even much bigger than this, that would come down the river. But this is in the 1800s. It's quite fascinating. And of course, steamboats. So right here is a steamboat in Tidiute, but I'm going to click here. And here is a fascinating story about a steamboat trip from Warren to Irvine in 1861. This is actually from the warrenhistory.org website from our historical society. There's a lot more about steamboats there, as well as the steamboat that was called the Allegheny, that was one of the first steamboats to come through Warren. It's hard to believe sometimes in this modern day that these big ships were just constantly coming down our waterways. Like, we don't think of that. Also, we don't think of, now that we have the Kinzua Dam, there isn't much of that going on because the waterways aren't as big as they were at one point in time. So it's quite interesting how that all plays out in our history. Now, recreation is another big part of our waterways here in Warren and what shaped us. You can see canoeing. I love this photo. It's kind of hard to see. You can even see a background of a bridge here. Jen's going to talk to us about the bridges. But canoeing was a big part of recreation at that time. Here's a really cool one. You're not going to be able to see it very well, but we can show you tons and tons more of pictures of fishing and boating and swimming and so much more. We also have the Kinzua Wolf Run Marina and boat launch over at the Allegheny Reservoir. And here is a picture from the Allegheny Outfitters of kayaking, which is really big in this area. And gosh, are these gorgeous. And they have many other really pretty pictures. So there was many other watercrafts that we have seen over the years on our waterways. Here is a gravel towboat that took a lot of gravel from, there was many quarries that have popped up over the time. And we get this quite a bit actually, where people come in and talk about different quarries that were on their property, or they're trying to look for a certain quarry. It's quite interesting there. And then we have in 2000, someone replicated like a Huck Finn kind of river raft. That's really fun. And this was a rarity. So a 1946 Army duck boat was found maneuvering around the Allegheny River. This is one of those things like you've heard of at this time period, but rarely saw. So this was quite an interesting day for the people of Warren. Here you will see, we talked about flatboats for the navigation guide, Allegheny Pilot. Well, this is what a flatboat looks like. And this is from 1870s. And you can see here, it is stuck on the Congowango Creek right at the moment because there has been a little bit of an ice jam and there's not enough water. They literally had to wait for a spring thaw for this to come loose. Could you imagine this just all of a sudden floating? So Jen is now going to walk us through some of the bridges in Warren.
All right, so Warren has had many bridges over the years. You can see in this 1940 map of Warren the locations of several bridges, and if you study this, you'll realize that a lot of those locations have bridges there today. Prior to the 1870s, there were only a couple of bridges in existence. So for those wanting to travel to the other side of the Allegheny River or the Conowongo Creek, they had to cross over via the early watercrafts that Amanda just spoke about. So the bridges of Warren have changed drastically over the years. Others have simply disappeared. So we're going to take a closer look at some of these early bridges, but I just wanted to point out to you on this map, I find it interesting if you look at early, very early maps of Warren and you see references to different areas in Warren. So what we know today as Pennsylvania Avenue, which in 1940, it was Pennsylvania Avenue, but in the early days, this road was called Water Street, and it ran that same way it does today on the west side. But then when you get to where the river converges with the Conowongo Creek, it looped up to what Water Street is today. So it was just this looping road known as Water Street.
And actually, this book here, I found some fascinating photos of the early time Water Street, and you could clearly see that it's Pennsylvania Avenue today, but then it was called Water Street, and it says it right in the descriptions. So it's quite interesting, but that can be really confusing if you think you're actually looking at Water Street and going, what? This doesn't make sense. No, it doesn't, because the Allegheny River wouldn't be there.
All right, so the first bridge that we're going to look at is the Glade Bridge. And the picture on the left is the original Glade Bridge on the east side of Warren. It was built in 1881 and it was a wooden toll bridge. So anybody that wanted to cross the river had to pay a small convenience fee in order to cross. So this bridge was replaced in 1900 by an iron high level bridge. And what that means is there was a top level and a bottom level. And the top level is where the streetcar ran. The streetcar ran from Sheffield to Warren. So you can see here in this picture, the streetcar on the top. And then the lower level of the bridge would be for the cars, the horses and wagons, and those that are just traveling on foot. So the next bridge is, it's had several names. The original one is the Suspension Bridge. Then we knew it as the Hickory Street Bridge, and now it has been renamed to the Veterans Memorial Bridge. So this original Suspension Bridge was built in 1871. It also served as a toll bridge. So again, anyone wanting to cross had to pay a small fee. And the suspension bridge was replaced by a concrete bridge and named the Hickory Street Bridge in 1918. And you can see in this photo of the Hickory Street Bridge was built alongside the suspension bridge. And then the suspension bridge was slowly torn down after. So where the suspension bridge is that you see in this photo is where we know the Soldiers and Sailors Park is today. And you can see the Soldiers and Sailors Monument was there at that time. So the next couple bridges are swinging bridges. The first one was on 3rd Avenue, and it was built in 1870. And you can see there's a couple guys standing on there. This was a foot traffic only bridge. So you were just able to walk across it. It was not big enough for any sort of vehicle. This bridge was unfortunately destroyed by an ice jam and was later replaced by a steel auto bridge. The other swinging bridge on this slide was located in North Warren. It was built in 1917. And by the 1930s, they were warning that it was not a safe bridge to cross, but people kept crossing it. And there was a tragedy in 1936 when some people were crossing, and unfortunately, 2 high school students were killed when the bridge collapsed. And according to an article from the Warren Times Mirror dated March 30th, 1936, there were 11 other people that miraculously escaped a similar fate. The next bridge is the original Fifth Avenue Bridge. It was erected in 1870 by David Beatty Sr., and it was destroyed also by an ice jam and later replaced by a steel auto bridge. So you can see here the horse and buggy crossing the main part of the bridge, and then off to the side was where pedestrians could walk across. And then there were also covered bridges in Warren. So according to Covered Bridges of Yesterday, an article written by Jim Sater for the April 1997 issue of the local Steppin' Out publication, there were 3 covered bridges in Warren. Unfortunately, I could only find photos of one of these bridges. So shown here is the railroad covered bridge. The one on the left side is the original bridge with the roof. It was built in 1859. And then in 1882, there was a high windstorm and the roof blew off. So you can see on the picture to the right that the roof is no longer available due to that windstorm. So this bridge was later replaced by a steel structure in 1896. And so you'll know this as the present day site. There's still a railroad bridge there today on the west side. And a lot of Warren graduates go there to have their senior photos taken. It's just a really pretty background for those pictures. So the other 2 covered bridges I just want to mention, again, unfortunately, I do not have any photos. If anybody knows of any images anywhere, maybe the Historical Society has some, I would love to see them. So the second covered bridge was located on Pennsylvania Avenue East. So where Wendy's and Pizza Hut and Tim Hortons is today, that used to be a covered bridge there. It was built in 1829, so a very early bridge, and it was torn down in 1883. And then the third covered bridge was located at the foot of Hazel Street. It crossed the Allegheny River to the south side of Warren. It was built and owned by the Warren Bridge Company in 1839, so another very early bridge, and it collapsed in 1855.
And just before we start recording this, we talked about the beautiful cover bridge that used to be in Russell.
Yes, we have lots of photos of that.
Lots of photos of that. So again, there is lots of things that you can come find in the reference room. We only just give you a glimpse of things here on those sessions. So we invite you at any point in time to come in and do your own research, and we will certainly help you along the way. Again, thank you. We are at the end of History of Our Waterways. Thank you for tuning in. We hope that you catch our other sessions that are also on the website. And don't forget to take that quiz. That quiz will help you get an entry for some gift cards to Dipson Theaters. So thank you again so much.
Thank you very much.
And have a wonderful day.
Bye now.